Welcome to another edition of the Bones of Advertising. I'm Craig McLeod, and you're still...
I'm still excited. I'm still excited because we keep getting guests and they keep returning. I'm very happy about that.
I'm very excited to introduce a very, very good friend of mine, Bobby Zagame. Welcome, BZ.
Thanks, Craig. Hi, mate. Hi, John. Good to see you again, mate.
Fantastic to have you on the show, mate. Very, very grateful for your time today, and very keen to hear how the last 8 months have been for you, Bobby. I imagine in the car industry, which, you know, you've got a couple of brands, just a couple. I imagine it would have been an interesting 8 months for you. So keen to maybe start off with just what it was like. You know, take us through March and April, and sort of we'll roll on from there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you know, look, it was a weird time to say the least, and it sort of reflected or reminded me of what life was like in the last recession, which a lot of people may or may not have experienced some 30 years ago. But the world pretty much stopped, and it's a bit of in business, you do tend to think, geez, is this what do we do here? You sort of go into what I would call contraction mode, or you know, just cut all anything that's any excess fat in your business, and really become a little bit more of a protective, I suppose, of your assets and your business. So pretty much as of, you know, March, again, reflecting back 30 years back, and what I did back then in the hospitality industry is just looked at all our costs. So marketing, you know, sorry to say for, you know, guys like you, but marketing went just absolutely just stopped. We just stopped everything, and we're big marketers. We've got events. You know, Grand Prix time is when it really did hit. And as we know, Grand Prix was cancelled at the last minute. We had our not hundreds of thousands of dollars of display, or, you know, and customers ready to greet them. We had the alcohol out on the tables for the first morning of the Grand Prix, and of course, at the last minute, it was canned. So, you know, that was the beginning, if you like. But just looked at all our marketing stops, you know, and just said, well, okay, let's save our pennies. Staff went through anything that was excessive, or anything that you thought that was expensive as an overhead in respect of salaries and key positions. Went. So we terminated, you know, a lot of people, so probably a good 20% of the workforce.
Wow.
And just went into a closed mode, if you like, of saying, okay, we've got to do business. We're out there, but purely save our bucks. And I think it was, you know, it was COVID. You had that excuse. You could never do what we did in all those changes pre-COVID, because otherwise people would just think you're going broke. You know, this is, you know, what there's something not quite right. But I think it just had to happen. I think in general, and not just our business, a lot of businesses, we really had to review the way we were operating, and COVID was the excuse.
And BZ, tell me a bit about. We'll start just with Grand Prix. Extraordinary for me to hear that you actually had the drinks out on the table on day one when they cancelled the Grand Prix. So it was right up until that point, you were still thinking you'd have the standard. And I've been privileged to be a guest a number of times. You were still thinking that you would have everyone turn up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, we literally, the grog was on the tables, the food, the caterers were ready to go. Our staff were there in the marquee. It was on, and I think 9 o'clock officially. I think it was canned, and as I say, I think the gates were meant to open at 8 or 9. So we were ready to go. So it was talk about last minute.
And I know that that's a big part of the marketing process for the Zagame Automotive Group. It really is an engaging time when you get to speak a lot, you personally, because I know you're very personable with the clients. But with all of that stopping, what has that then done? What's the knock-on effect from that? That's probably the part that I'd be interested to hear about.
I think it's look, the world has changed, and I think that when you say the knock-on effect, it's been interesting. I think as a business model, I think financially, we're set up better now to go forward than we were previously because
Leaner?
we're leaner and we had to make change. I think with all businesses, and this is, I'm not just talking about us. I know I speak to other retailers and other car dealers. You can talk about restaurateurs, whatever. We've all looked at our business and said, it really wasn't working before. We were the mice on the treadmill, just, going and doing our thing, but financially it wasn't a great business model.
Right.
And I think we just get fat. And so, and we get, I wouldn't say lazy, but you're in a rut and you can't change unless there's an absolute reason to, and COVID was the reason. And I think for a lot of businesses, some will not survive, as we know, but a lot will come through much stronger. And I certainly think for us, it's, we will come through stronger. We looked at even some sites, we've closed some sites because they were really excess, and thought about more efficient ways of operating our business out of less. And I think that's going to happen more as we go down into the future. We're going to say, well, okay, for example, car dealerships don't need all this space. We can operate much smaller and then do all our logistics off premise. Do it somewhere where whether we deliver cars to the door or whether we do everything away from a expensive dealership model, and we just become more efficient, do a lot more things online as we have been doing over the last 6 months.
It's kind of really forced you to pivot, hasn't it? That process that we would never have thought about when we were working together for the 7 years or so, we would never have thought about delivering a car at someone's home. Whereas now we've seen not only can it be done, but it can be done and done exceptionally well. And the customer is just as happy. The experiential, the focus that you deliver really, really well. You can still go through every detail of the car within the driveway in a COVID safe environment with your customer. And all of a sudden, because I know property is a big part of your business as well. Property is a massive part of it. But all of a sudden, you're in a situation where instead of needing, I don't know, BZ, maybe 300 square meters, you can go down to something smaller and have a really nice experience, but then have all of that stuff happening like pre-car or servicing or anything else out of the dealership itself per se. So that's a really interesting pivot. What else do you think you'll take forward, BZ, moving forward?
I think, certainly, I think the use of marketing is going to change. And I think, like previously, as you know, we had 12 people in our marketing team, and now it's down to 4, so, and we may introduce 1 or 2 as we need to do events, but like events, we were very heavy in events.
Yep.
I don't see us doing a lot of events. We will do less events, but very good ones, if you like, I think throughout a year.
Yep.
Whereas previously, you had an event for a new car release, but it was getting harder to either come up with fresh ideas to motivate people to want to come and see it, because, as you know, a car is launched online these days and everybody knows all about it. They've seen it. And do they need to touch it at an event with 100 or 200 other people? Yep. Not really. No, I think they prefer the one-on-one. So I think there's a lot of savings we can have there. And so I think marketing will change dramatically and it'll become a lot more, online focused,
yep,
virtual, those sorts of, that sort of direction. I also sort of look at, again, our sales process. I mean, I think we can do a mixture of a lot more online. I mean, up until we reopened a couple of weeks ago, we were selling 10 to 15 cars a day online, and as I said, that's all contactless. They weren't citing the car. It was all purely what they could visualize through their through website and car sales.
Yeah.
And again, and we're fortunate, we've got our own transport, our own trucks. So we were delivering those cars to their door, contactless. And as I said, it was consistent. It was, it was very consistent. Not everybody needs to touch a car and drive it, because they can almost road test it, virtually, with all the road tests and information they can get online. That as long as they're feeling comfortable or confident with you as a brand,
yep,
as an organisation, then I think there's going to be a lot more of that, and the size of dealerships ain't necessarily as required as they have been in the past.
Well, I like that. I like that idea of having to change the way you do things. Like I worked on Holden for ages, And they were very stuck in a traditional dealer sales cycle. And then we had the great idea years and years and years ago of going, why don't you just open up a little mini showroom in a supermarket, in a shopping mall like Southland or Chadstone? And they were like, nah, that'll never happen. That's bloody stupid. And then Tesla came along, and that's exactly what they were doing. Are you finding, I love that idea of taking delivering the car on the transport and making it your experience, like a very Zagame specific experience.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you're looking at that you can tell us, or you can share with us?
Yeah,
about
sure.
Thinking about moving forward.
Well, I think we could actually apply that, particularly with our luxury brands, because they're super luxury, so it's not volume.
Yeah.
You know, we certainly can apply that same principle with service. We find, like with our Ferrari customers, for example, or our Lamborghini customers, they don't drive their cars regularly. And number one, and number two, it's probably a hassle to get the car here for a service, and then having to come and pick it up. You know, so we think that we'll be doing a lot more transporting or picking up their car from their home and then dropping it back the same way that we would deliver a new car, without them having to even think about worrying about getting it to us. So we think we'll do a lot more of that, which then makes you think, do you really need to have a service facility in Richmond where your property is expensive and so forth? We could pick that car up, and whether we service it in Richmond or we service it in Tullamarine, it doesn't matter to the customer as long as it's serviced. Yep. So then you look at facilities, you look at what do you need to provide the best service and what the customer's expectations are going to be going forward, and also work for you as a business where your cost base can be lowered, so that you can continue to trade and work better ways.
BZ, can I ask just quickly on the the sales? Are you seeing those online sales being more the younger demographic, or are you finding it sort of right across? Because I'm really intrigued to see whether it's Gen Y that are really comfortable with this online experience, who are comfortable, no problems, I can buy anything from a lipstick to a bloody car online, or whether you're seeing some, sort of 40 plus, 50 plus, 60 plus, all comfortable with that space now just because they've been forced to experience it based on what we've had to go through in the last 8 months.
I think the last few months has been more the older generation, to be honest. And when I say older, 35, 40 plus, that are more comfortable with it, because I think they're wiser. I think they look at it, maybe a company, and say, well, I'm going to buy this used car or new car online. Okay, I know the company, or it's reputable. Yep. I know my laws, I suppose. I think, if the car's not right, well, my gut tells me that these people are going to stand behind it and make sure that I'm not going to have difficulties. If they say the car is good and it's never been in an accident and those sorts of things, I think there's a trust element. So I think the older generation actually are being more comfortable with it than the younger, because the younger are probably less experienced, so they're probably a bit more tentative about just doing something online. Even though I know that they buy dresses and clothing and all that sort of thing, is second nature. A car is probably a bit bigger investment for a younger person.
Yeah, exactly.
Older generation have been very comfortable with it, and also we're selling a lot of cars interstate. So we've been doing that for a long time, but that is purely online. They can't see or touch that vehicle, so there's got to be an element of trust that we are selling a good product and delivering it to your door as we say it is. And that we have been doing a lot of as well, interstate. So the car is, as I say, they really are sticking their neck out and saying, well, I want that car. I think you're reputable, so I'll transact with you.
Yeah, right.
And that's I guess the power of a strong brand. Like if you've spent a lot of time building that trust, setting all the processes and the reasons for people to believe that when you say this car's good, they're going to believe that it's good. Like
absolutely, yeah. You've got to get rid of that, which I think is pretty much not existent in the industry for 90%. Is the car industry provide a very good service, a very upfront, confident, safe type of, generally they're all reputable people and businesses. Not forget the shonks from years ago. Yeah.
Generally, like generally, you're right. There are some that we might not put in that category, but generally, I think you're right these days.
Yeah, it's a thing of the past. Yeah.
And is there anything that you would be looking at from other industries? Like, is there anything you can take from like your experience in hospitality or your whatever, like a love of horse racing? Is there anything you can bring from other industries that you're thinking that kind of works over there? Maybe it'll work in automotive. Is there?
I think, certainly we've always applied the hospitality experience to our business in the past, but I think people are wanting less. When I say the expectations, probably they want more in service, but putting the fanfare on and maybe at a dealership level is not as important as probably providing a very slick service of, I want to buy a car, and I want it to be as seamless as possible. I may want to come in, or I may not want to. I may want you to come to me instead of me coming to you. And then when I do push the button to say, yeah, I want to buy it, I want the car, whether it, again, deliver it to my door or I'll come and pick it up. But I think people just, time is too important. It's precious, more so than ever. And so I think efficiency and slickness is going to be more important in the way that people purchase their commodities, going forward. And we're seeing that with, as I say, just online shopping, whether it be a Kogan or whatever. I mean, people know what they want. They can do their research all online. They don't need to even drive a car if they're not that fussed. But they just want it to be easy.
Yeah,
I think that's the important part.
And as a parting thought, BZ, just from a marketing point of view, going down from 12 to 4 and the idea that it's going to have to be more online experiential, do you see a lot more effort going into the production of content? So whether that's, videos now of all of the cars, whether that's, putting out a whole bunch more photographs, although I know all the cars are already really well photographed, or is it about generating more content to try and ensure that those people online can have that really strong virtual experience rather than going traditional, with the way you used to do it, and it's probably been years, but the newspapers previously, and then from there it's going to be car sales primarily. But yeah, is content going to be a key component?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's everything. I think that's where the opportunities that we can, whether we all can do it better, we certainly can do it better. But yeah, I think there's got to be more cleverer ways of interacting and getting, having your customer base connected through virtual. And as I say, whether it be more photos, better photos, whether it be video footage. Again, while we were closed, I'd come in and have to just video a car because guys would say, look, somebody's keen to buy this car, but they want to see it by, virtual. So I'd just get my iPhone and video the car and go around it and show some features and so forth. And that was my gig there for a little while. But that was the difference between them buying and buying the car or not buying it, because they just, they need more. They want more. And particularly of the item that they're looking to buy, that particular car. Yeah. And then of course, on from that is the things that are important is just the warranties and the service ongoing, so that they don't feel like they're stooged. And price didn't end up being as important through the last, particularly the last 5 or 6 months as it was previously. It was more about people would come into the dealership and it was the race to the bottom to get to basically lose on a car to give it away. Whereas I think now it's more about the virtual experience. Know that they're getting the right deal, getting the right support and backup, and choosing the product that they want, not us trying to push them into something that they don't want.
Yeah. And what about a parting thought from you, BZ, the future of the auto space? I know, we're no magicians here, but crystal ball, how do you see it? So coming into early 2021 and beyond, Are you feeling confident? Do you see it ever going back? I mean, you've already mentioned that there's some things that you'll definitely bring forward, but yeah, how do you see it?
I think what's, again, the COVID thing, what has happened going back to March, April, is that Europe shut down, the world shut down. So factories were closed. So pre-COVID, we were all overstocked. All the manufacturers were pushing to do too much volume, and as I said, the business model didn't work. It was a race to the bottom. You know, we pretty much are just pushing our cars because we had to get rid of them because we had too much stock and our targets were too high. COVID, factories closed down. Ongoingly and through the next few months, no stock was coming in. So what we had is what we had. So and we were still selling cars. People were still wanting cars. But they had to buy what either was here and also compete with everybody else, because the car market actually, particularly when we reopened in May, June, it just skyrocketed. We had a record month. All car dealers had a record month in June, because we worked out, well, we can't fly, we can't go on, these great lavish holidays. Our future for the next 12 to 2 years probably is going to be hopping in the car and going into the country. And even if it's not going to the country, probably interstate. And we're going to do it on a road trip rather than a plane. So the car all of a sudden became important. And so all this demand has decreased stock levels to half right across the country. And all of this, and that has changed the business model for us, because all of a sudden we're not giving away cars just to get rid of them. We're holding our line because we need to gross, and people want our product, which is important. And there's not much out there, so which is great. And going forward with that, not trying to be overstocked, we try to keep our stock levels right, as well as, I think, ultimately looking into the future, not needing as big a footprints for car showrooms. I think that's a given, and the manufacturers have realised that now. I think you'll see more virtual. You'll see a lot more configurator type setups when you order your cars. You won't see showrooms with 20 cars in them. You'll see showrooms with 3 cars in them. And then when you choose your car, we will have to deliver it to your door, or you'll come and pick it up, but it won't be there on the showroom floor per se when you bought it. If you can understand, like you won't have that. You'd already done your homework. You can pretty much see it online. What you need to buy. And then you've got to trust that we're going to give you the right colour with the right specification that you actually ordered, and deliver it. So I think there'll be a lot more downsizing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's been another edition of the Bones of Advertising. I'm very grateful, Bobby, for your time. And JD, don't you go changing.
I won't.
We'll see you all next week. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Craig.